So if you're just walking in, you'll need this, which is in the back, but I'll get it to you later. Okay. So I am now going to be just kind of going over with you what is on your plate as far as this class is concerned. What should you be either done with or soon to be done with? No more presentations. That ship has sailed. You've all had your chance. Whoever's left, you, for whatever reason, inform me that you were not ready to go, and that's fine. It's fine. You just need to find me at some point and just present it just to me, and that's perfectly fine to do it that way. Okay. So during your flex time or when there's work time in this class, find me, bring your computer, and it'll be just fine. Now you won't get as much credit as those of you who presented to everybody else. But remember, it's not that you lost points, it's just that those people gained extra points. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay, think about this. Just make yourself a little checklist. Are you done with that? If so, flush it. You don't have to worry about it anymore. If not, maybe jot it down like this is something you still need to take care of. Number 2 and number 3 are the same thing. 2 article summaries. You should be done with those by now. The second one was due last Friday. So you should be done with 2 article summaries for the yes side of your topic. And if you don't even know what I'm talking about right now, you need to find me at some point, and we need to figure out what's wrong with you. Because all of you picked your topic. I have the list over here. You can still change your mind. It's getting kind of late, though, as far as your topic choice, but you should be done with 2 article summaries. Now, the 3rd article summary would be due this Friday. There's no school this Friday. It's still due Friday. But relax, right? Even if you're not done with it by then, so what? There's no late penalty. Get it in whenever you can. But I'm going on the assumption that by Monday of next week, you will have read 3 articles, 2 in favor of and 1 against whatever your question is, and come up with arguments and quotes and examples and all that stuff. Okay? You really don't want to fall behind as far as that is concerned, because we will be writing your paper in class. I don't want you to be worrying about this paper outside of class on your own. We're going to be doing it. Now, you might be thinking, how can that possibly be? When we wrote the Vietnam paper, we were all writing on the same thing. Now we're all writing on something different. That's okay. We can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Okay? Article number 3 due this Friday. Any questions on those 3 things? All of you did the Cold War test. Awesome. There's still about 10 of you who have not done the first paper on the Vietnam War. That's crazy. You should take care of that. Some of you have not done the Sunni Shiite Kia. Only about 5 of you. Persian Gulf War test. There are 4 of you who still not done that bad boy. Take that. Any questions? That's what is on your plate as of right now. Okay, I'm going to talk for just a little while here. The question that I'm going to try and have us kind of figure out is, why does the U.S. sometimes support awful governments? Why do we do that? I'm going to give you several examples, and then we're going to try and figure out what is a possible answer to that question. Why does the U.S. support dictatorships? Okay, let me give you a couple examples, and then I'm going to throw out a question to all of you, and then let's see if we can generate some answers here. Dictatorship number 1 is Egypt. Egypt located Middle East. This is the former ruler of Egypt. He's still alive, but he is no longer the ruler of Egypt. However, he's a good example of what I am talking about. Phone's away. Away. Area away. Of what I'm talking about. This is Hosni Mubarak. And Egypt does not have elections. They are not a democracy. Torture is legal. In fact, after 9/11, Egypt is where the U.S. took several people to aggressively question them after 9/11, because what was illegal in the U.S. was not illegal in Egypt. You are not allowed in Egypt to gather in crowds larger than 5 because you might be talking about me. Are you talking about me? So it's illegal in Egypt now, except for tourists, right? Old white people from Florida looking at the pyramids are the exemption to that. Sorry? Uh-huh. A possible answer is over here about why the U.S. supports this awful government. Egypt is the second largest recipient of foreign aid. Number 2, behind. Anyone want to know? Take a guess? Who is the number 1 recipient of American foreign aid? Good guess. Saudi Arabia is wrong. Israel. Mexico's a good guess. Wrong. Israel is correct. Israel, number 1. Okay. What you're now looking at is a map which shows the renditions program that the CIA engaged in after 9/11. All these circles and squares and triangles represent a location where the CIA had a secret camp and engaged in aggressive interrogation techniques. Let's put it that way. Some people called it torture. Others said, well, no. Let's go back. Do you remember that picture I showed you of the guy standing on the box and wires were hooked up to things? Was he being tortured? No. Or was he under the illusion that he was being tortured? Some of you are arguing the illusion of torture and as a result not torture. But there are others that say the illusion of torture is in itself torture. The illusion of torture is torture. It's mental torture. Okay? So you can see that Egypt is one of the locations that the CIA engaged in what here would have been illegal. It violates several amendments of our Constitution. You, as the accused, cannot be aggressively interrogated by the authorities. They can't beat you to a pulp until you admit you did it. In fact, you don't even have to answer their questions. You have the right to remain. Do any of you know your Miranda rights? Hopefully not. But have any of you been through that experience?
Sadly, no.
Your Miranda rights, do you know? You have the right to remain silent. I mean, when the cops arrest you, this does not happen in Egypt. When the cops arrest you, they say, listen, we're arresting you. You shouldn't tell us anything. We're going to ask you a bunch of things. Don't answer. And if you do answer, we are going to use what you answer to nail you in a courtroom. And you should have a lawyer here. Now, where is he? That's my joker. Anyone know what you're looking at here? The Suez Canal. That's right, the Suez Canal. And that, sailing through the Suez Canal, is the answer. Why does the U.S. support a government that tortures, that arrests people, that is not a democracy? And the answer is right there. Anyone verbalize what I'm talking about?
Let us skip past.
There it is. The Egyptians allow the United States Navy to use the Suez Canal for our aircraft carriers. Thank you, Egypt. Now we will turn a blind eye to what you're doing within your borders. Okay? I'm not arguing right or wrong. I'm simply pointing out why the U.S. seems to tolerate behaviors by this country when it does not tolerate the same behaviors by a different country. And it's maybe because that country is doing us a favor. And this aircraft carrier is on its way to do some good. And as a result, we have to sort of turn a blind eye to some of the negative things that a country like Egypt might be engaging in. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not a democracy. That is the king of Saudi Arabia. He was not elected. I thought we're about democracy. No. I'd say we're about capitalism. Okay, you're on to something there. Or you're on something. This is something called the Democracy Index. It lists the freest and the least free countries on earth, excluding the United States. The United States was exempt from this. But according to this, Sweden, the freest country out of 10. Sweden scores a 9.88. Finding Saudi Arabia. Coming in at number 161 out of 167 is Saudi Arabia. Not a very free country. By the way, dead last, North Korea. Really shouldn't shock anybody.
Why is Somalia not number one?
Your face. You are now looking at things that are legal in Saudi Arabia. Torture. These are the Saudi Arabian authorities. That guy is being tortured until he says what they want to hear. This is an ally of the U.S. Why do we tolerate this from an ally? This woman is about to lose her head in public. They have public executions in Saudi Arabia. She was guilty of a horrendous crime in Saudi Arabia, which was not even a crime here. She's guilty of dating a non-Muslim. And for that, she lost her head. By the way, she was turned in by her dad. Her own father sanctioned the beheading of his own daughter. This is called Sharia law. It is observed in some parts of the Middle East. I want to caution you, please do not think all Muslims agree with this or this. I would say the vast majority do not. But Saudi Arabia does. That country, the government itself, agrees with executing people in public. We don't even have public executions in the United States. The Supreme Court ruled public executions, in essence, weird. The Eighth Amendment says you cannot have cruel punishments, and you cannot also have unusual punishments. And gathering for a picnic to watch a hanging, the Supreme Court ruled that's weird. So now we have them in the middle of the night, 1, 2 a.m., and only lethal injection. Electric chair was ruled unconstitutional. It's cruel. Beheadings, weird. Did you know the French created beheadings as a humane way to go? Because the main method of execution before beheadings was being burned at the stake. And they thought that was kind of cruel to burn someone until they died. So they created an alternative system. You just lose your head. It's just over. What the Supreme Court ruled about beheading is not that it's cruel, it's that it's weird. It's unusual. Not that it's cruel. You don't suffer, right? It's just weird. Okay. Now, the answer, why do we support Saudi Arabia? Why do we support a country that beheads people in public and is torturing people? Well, it was Saudi Arabia that let the U.S. put soldiers in it when Iraq invaded Kuwait. Saudi Arabia said, bring your soldiers here. They are a welcome. They have the welcome mat open for us. And so we turn a blind eye to some of the things that Saudi Arabia does. It is Saudi Arabia that executed a newspaper reporter for the New York Times. They invited him to a building, and agents were waiting in the building, and they recorded the whole thing.
Isn't that pretty recent?
Yeah, it was just like 2 months ago.
Wow.
Right? And the U.S. Basically not said, hooray, way to go, but who are we to tell Saudi Arabia what they do with people within their country? They don't tell us what to do. We shouldn't tell them what to do. Okay? It's just a different approach. Last one, and then we're going to shift gears here. This is Musharraf. He's the dictator of Pakistan, was the dictator of Pakistan. This is Saddam Hussein. He was the ruler of Iraq, both supported by the U.S. for a while. Well, why? Why did we support them? They must. Okay, so ultimately, here's the answer that I want you to have. There's two possible answers. One is we turn a blind eye because what? What's the answer that I've been giving you?
Let us use
Right. They allow us to have access militarily to areas they want access to. But the other answer is, okay, maybe not communism. It's better than fill in the blank. It's better than fill in the blank. It's better than Al-Qaeda ruling. And well, that's the conclusion of the U.S. government.
I don't mind some
Better to support the Egyptian military in its rule of Egypt than a radical group that overthrows the Egyptian government and establishes a radical tribalist government that rejects the whole idea of nation. So the U.S. approach is we're going to tolerate your behavior. We don't like it, but we're going to tolerate because you're allowing the U.S. to have a military presence there, and it's better than the alternative. Very good, Ethan. Okay. Any questions? Very good. All of you turn to page 18 in your book. If you do not have this, you need one.
Where do I go get one?
You can do it. If you don't have it, you need one. Follow me.
I have a conflict today.
So you know, if you take your shoe and you throw it on the ground, like just without having like jump it up and down a little bit, you can't. Shoot again. Okay, you don't have boxing material.
I have steel.
So I can't move my foot. It just keeps bouncing.
You're doing good old Barry things.
Damn. Trick. Doesn't even.
What a move, my God.
Mine, dude.
I think you did.
On page 18 is a list in the second column. That list is what we're going to be paying attention to. You will be finding yourself in one of 7 tables. I know that. Thank you. You will be one of 7 tables. I will be numbering you 1 through 7. You will then go to your respective table. That means you're not going with your best friend, Billy. That means you have to interact with other people.
No.
Scary people.
Hopefully I don't get Ethan.
Here we go. 1,
Let's just go together.
2,
Let's just go
3,
together.
4, 5, 6,
Put all our hands
7,
together. Here,
1,
Same.
join. Heather, join.
2,
No, we're all 2.
3,
I'll do.
4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7.
No, I wanted.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. 1s, 2s.
No, I want 2s here.
3s, 4s.
I claim this table.
5.
I don't move.
6s, 7. Go. Take your book with you.
Form 6. It says Form 6. Why
Come on,
would
Trey.
Form 7?
Because your mom, all right? That's
Thank
the
you.
reason.
For insulting my mother.
You good? Yeah.
It's not even a part of this.
Okay. Shouldn't have been involved.
Mr. Potter. What? Potter, understand there's a book we need to get? Where is this?
Oh, I'll get it.
Come on, Jay.
1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7.
Oh yeah, can you grab that? Yeah.
Okay,
I was just looking for
your number corresponds to the minimum accomplishment that you are going to achieve in class today. I understand some of you are leaving. That's okay. Just get up and quietly leave. But that committee is looking at entry number 1. Here's number 2. There's number 3. Here's number 4. There's number 5. There's number 6. Number 7. Await further instructions. Okay. You as a committee look at your number and what's wrong with you? In the second column, Will. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think that proposal is a good idea? Argue the merits of that proposal. Argue the
not
problems with that proposal. And then you as a committee are responsible to write a bill. It can be word for word the same as the proposal that's in the book if you think it's a good idea. If you don't like it, or you think it needs clarification, or you think it needs a little bit added to it or taken away from it, then you have the authority to do so. And then you as a committee, your table, you vote on it. You vote on the bill. If it passes, you then have your champion get up and walk the piece of paper. You have a piece of paper that you've written the proposal on it, and it has your committee number on it. So that's committee number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? You walk the piece of paper over to this committee. This is the rules committee. You guys get to decide if the bill is a good idea. If it passes your committee, you then take it and give it to the president. That's me.
Hey, we didn't elect you.
Dictator.
Popular vote
I
doesn't
vote we
matter.
have elections.
Popular vote doesn't matter.
There was no
So
vote,
it doesn't
though.
matter to you.
You can actually
Doesn't matter.
say why.
I vote that I say that we have elections for who should be
The
president.
first 5 minutes.
That's not democracy, Will.
No, what we do is we
vote on
come to
that.
consensus on every
Table.
table, and then each table
If-
sends its vote.
if
The electoral college.
Your bill passes your committee and passes the rules committee and is in the hands of the president for his signature or veto.
What about her?
I'm a man
But what if?
and
what-
very much a man.
I vote to impeach.
That's
I
later.
second.
That's later. Your committee then has permission to consider what you were supposed to think about yesterday. Any other ideas, right? You can propose. Well, I think this should be something that our committee proposes. And you write it out on a separate sheet. Each bill gets its own sheet of paper. And then once it passes your committee, after it's been altered, voted on, all that stuff, you walk it to the rules committee. They have to vote for it or reject it. If it passes them, it comes to me. Okay? Any questions? I'm going to check back with you in
said
about.
we had to come up with like a name and a state.
You do. That's later.
Wait, so like the thing of me abolishing all those amendments is later?
Wait, what?
I'll be right with you. Any questions on what you're doing now? The first thing you're doing is considering the thing that's in that book. Change it, alter it, leave it alone, pass it, give it to the rules committee. After that, any bill that you want. Okay? Off you go. I'll check with you in 10 minutes.
Okay.
I think we can allow wiretaps to suspected terrorists, but not entire apartment buildings. But both are under warrants, or court-approved warrants. I still think apartment buildings should be left apartment at a time. Or like if you think you know what apartment this terrorist it is, maybe the surrounding 3, but not the whole building.
Yeah.
So like if you're on the top floor and this terrorist is suspected to be on the 2nd floor, you don't want your apartment searched.
Yeah.
Even if you have nothing to hide, you still it's an invasion of your privacy.
Right. Yeah, I think whole building's a little too.
Just to write this. Handwriting's not difficult. I can just tell you what to write.
I don't like that. It's a very dangerous idea. They're terrorists.
I mean, wiretapping your phone is pretty extreme too.
That opens the door for that. I'm not sure before. I'm not saying I don't.
I think they could be allowed to do that. The FBI wants to permit the use of court-approved warrants. It has to be court-approved. Cops just can't do it if they want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has to be court-approved warrants to wiretap suspected terrorists.